Greetings, I'm Chuck Lennox. I am the coordinator of the Global Alliance for Heritage Interpretation, which is an organization of professional groups from around the world that support heritage interpretation in all its forms. I want to welcome you to our webinar series, Global Excellence in Heritage Interpretation. I trust you will enjoy these webinars from various member groups and from other speakers around the world. I think you'll gain a new perspective on heritage interpretation. Let's introduce our member groups.
Hello, my name is Jackie Lee and I am the chair of AHI, the Association for Heritage Interpretation for Britain and Ireland. And we are absolutely delighted to be part of the GAHI webinar series.
Hello from Interpret Europe. Our community is also happily contributing success stories to this Global Excellence webinar series. Lean back and enjoy.
Hi, my name is Kylie Christian and I'm President of Interpretation Australia. I would like to welcome you to this year's Global Alliance for Heritage Interpretations webinar series. We have a great group of discussions and presentations for you from all around the world, so I do hope to see you online.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Greetings to you all. My name is Nick and I am the chair of the Interpretation Network of New Zealand. We are a network designed to bring together interpretation professionals and showcase the best practice happening around our beautiful country of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Hola, mi nombre es Antonieta Jiménez, soy fundadora y directora de Interpat MX, la Asociación Mexicana de Intérpretes del Patrimonio, una asociación fundada recientemente en 2019, y a nombre de la Junta Directiva quiero transmitirles nuestro enorme gusto y entusiasmo de ser parte de esta alianza global.
Hello, bonjour, je m'appelle Jennifer Dick. I'm the chair of Interpretation Canada. We are a community that supports, engages, and inspires heritage interpreters across Canada.
Hi there, I am Paul Caputo. I'm the executive director with the National Association for Interpretation in the United States. We are so proud to be one of the organizing partners of the Global Alliance for Heritage Interpretation Excellence in Interpretation series. So proud to be part of this organization. Right now, 7 organizing partners from around the world. Thank you all for being part of such an inspiring and amazing profession.
Hi, I'm Tracy Gage, Executive Director of the Interpretive Guides Association, which is a Canadian-based interpretive guide training and certification organization, presently representing close to 2,000 certified members who work as interpretive guides, as educators, and as outdoor leaders internationally. We're proud to be part of the Global Alliance of Heritage Interpretation's family of professionals, and we're excited to explore the world of interpretation with you.
Hello there. Welcome everybody to the GAHI series today. My name is Song. I am standing in for Chuck Lennox and for Helena, also from Interpret Europe. They are both gallivanting around South Korea. Some very exciting news. Helena's been working with the World Heritage Interpretation and Presentation International Center, WHIPIC, and yeah, I don't know what they're doing, but it looks really exciting. So here I am introducing Valia and Valentina here joining us from the Northeast region of Greece, and I will not say any more, but just hand it off to you. Really excited to hear about your project with interpretive walks, and I'll just let you take it from here.
Hi, thank you so much for the invitation. So I'm going to start sharing my screen, so give me 1 second. I hope everyone is seeing that okay. So welcome to EVRYNOUS. EVRYNOUS in Greek means open-minded. And today we're going to walk you through a region of Thrace and specifically the prefecture of Evros in Greece by the borders with Turkey and Bulgaria. So this is the line through for today. We're going to talk about a little bit about the region and why this location here is very interesting, not only culturally, but geopolitically as well. Then a few words about the museum, Ethnological Museum of Thrace, which is the host of the program. Then the program itself, the EVRYNOUS, what lessons did we learn throughout this process, and a look in the future to see our next steps and our hopes and dreams of escalating and growing this project. So first of all, where we are in the city of Alexandroupolis, which is in the prefecture of Evros by the borders with Bulgaria and Turkey. So this is the northern part of Greece. It's quite unique region because of its long diversity. So throughout the centuries, this has been a location that was very close with other cultures, religions, languages, customs, rituals. So it's a very rich area in matters of culture, history, emotions, feelings, colors, and all in between. The map that you're seeing with the green colors is actually shows you the map of where we did our project. As you can see, Evros is quite spread up. The city of Alexandroupolis is by the sea, and we went up to Castañes, which is by the borders with Bulgaria and Turkey, which is quite a long way. And we tried to spread it around throughout the region. A few words about the museum. Our museum is a private organization. It's been running for the past 22 years. And it talks about the everyday life of the people of the entire region of Thrace from the late 17th century up to the middle of the 20th. So it's about everyday life, the history, the culture, and the customs of the people. And its main focus is in the agriculture society. At the same time, we want to call ourselves a very socially active museum. And our outreach program always based, it's human-centered. Our goal is to have a safe space for learning, creation, development of self and knowledges, and at the same time to promote the culture and the region of Thrace. Feel free to ask me by the end to go back to the QR code. You can scan it. It sends you directly to the website of the museum, but we can see that at the end. Just a few words about the collection of the museum. We are quite small. We are 3 people working at the museum. The museum is non-profit, but we have a big collection. At the museum, you can see about 500 exhibition items, but we have about 6,500 items in our collection. At the same time, we have over 11,000 archives, which means documents and photographs from the entire region of Thrace, oldest being from the 15th century. At the same time, we produced about 20 different documentaries and did over 450 recordings. One of the most important elements, though, is our educational programs that we have for the region, a quite big outreach with about 5,000 students per year. At the same time, we're trying to be a very open space for the local community and not only to use the museum as a cultural hub. So we offer any kind of creative workshop or videos or screenings or conversations or labs for talking, connecting, creating, discovering, and so on. But our main goal was not to just stay located in the city of Alexandroupolis. Our purpose and our goal is to find a way to spread throughout the region of Evros. So that's why we come to the project EVRYNOUS. So as I said before, the region is quite widespread. So accessibility and equal opportunities are not always the same throughout the region. So it's very important to give opportunities and options to people that not necessarily have the same accessibility or opportunities as people staying at the capital of the region, which is Alexandroupolis. So we have a very hands-on approach. We want to empower local communities, share people's stories, and make them known. And with that, I want to give the pass to Valia so she can start explaining what's the project and then continue to break it down.
Thank you, Valentina. So you need to stop sharing. Thank you. So I can start sharing my screen. So when the Ethnological Museum approached me to get on board this idea, the EVRYNOUS idea, it was a very exciting project for me. And not just because Evros is a place where I have spent many years of my life, so it's like a second homeland to me, but also because I really liked the idea of trying to do heritage interpretation in that region. and not just heritage interpretation, but what we call value-based heritage interpretation in Interpret Europe. So if I would like to give some explanation what that is the sort of heritage interpretation that encourages first-hand experiences that make heritage more meaningful to people, at the same time making people more mindful of our shared future. And in practice, that means that we put the emphasis on interpretation by the people and on reflection on human values. So based on this notion, this aspect of heritage interpretation, we have developed, again, as Interpret Europe, we have developed this framework for interpretive planners. So what you see here on the first column are the qualities that we believe every heritage, every interpretive service should have. So to turn phenomena into experiences, to provoke resonance and participation, to offer paths to deeper meanings, and to foster stewardship for all heritage. Whereas the line shows us the process that an interpretive planner usually follows. So to review the heritage, the site, and the phenomena within the site, to review any interpretive services that might already exist before starting developing new ones, as well as developing a resilience for the plan and for the interpretation itself. To check that, we have used some questions, because as we all know, whoever has tried to do some interpretive planning knows firsthand that it's not possible to consider this a linear process, nor a plan is, the process is never the same anyway. So what we have done is to develop these 16 questions that the planner can use if related to the circumstances of the specific case, and in order to help them develop their plan. I try to use this sequence, this process also in within the project. So for me as a trainer of the meetings, of the workshops that we did, the aim of this workshop was for the people to discover or rediscover their heritage and the stories behind, to build people's capacities in heritage interpretation, because as we will explain, this was an open call for everyone. So most of the people had no idea what heritage interpretation is. Some of them had the previous experience on how to present things, but not all of them. Of course, another essential element was to build the group dynamics, so to create a network among the participants, and also as an end result to develop an alternative offer to the visitors of this remote place in Greece, beyond the usual tourist guided tours that already happened there. So the participants came from initially 3 and in the end 4 different parts. The Debotico, which is the third biggest town in the prefecture, started with 15 people, then Soufli, a smaller town with 7. The villages, some small remote villages in the northern part near the border line with Bulgaria and Turkey, started with 10 people, and then Dadia also joined. Dadia is a village in the heart of a national park, a big forest that was completely burned after a mega fire a few months before the project began. So they started with 14 people. And then you can see the numbers of the people who actually completely finished the project, who were present in all the meetings, even the last ones. So it is quite interesting to see that the people coming from the biggest towns were the ones who actually didn't stay for long, whereas the people from the villages really stick to the end. The profiles, as I said, there were different people. Some people were teachers or are still teachers. Some others work in a museum. There were some people who had already been retired, others representing local NGOs, farmers, guides, and biologists. By that, I mean conservation biologists, because Evros has a really rich natural heritage. So these three categories were the people who really felt more connected to the objectives of the project. And if you see the numbers, these were the ones with the highest percentage of keeping up with all the meetings. Whereas these two categories, the conservation biologists and the farmers, had to quit after a while, not all of them, but some of them, because the period that we ran the project was also from late winter to summer. And during the springtime, for these people, it was a high season for their professional tasks, so they could not attend. Okay, so we held 5 meetings per group. And if you ask why separately, well, you saw how far away it takes like 1 hour or 1 hour and a half to drive from one part to the prefecture to the other. So there were practical reasons where we had to split the meetings per group, but also it was a very conscious decision because we wanted for the people to focus on their own sides. So, and from our part of the deal to adapt the content of the meetings to their specific needs. Also, we wanted first to help these group dynamics that I mentioned before to build first on a local level before we merge all the groups together. The process that we followed throughout the meetings, the first one was an opportunity to rediscover the heritage and their own sites. By sites, we mean the towns, the villages where they live, to collect stories from the locals, locals meaning themselves, but also other people, other residents of the local, members of the local communities. The third time we met, we started dealing with heritage interpretation per se. So what are the principles, but in a very hands-on, very applied way, not so much theoretical. And the fourth time we met, we started dealing with personal interpretation and the tools and the skills that someone would need in order to do an interpretive talk and work. Finally, the fifth time, we had a rehearsal of the interpretive talks that people had prepared, combined, weaved together to form an interpretive walk. And it was at that meeting where we also had some peer evaluation. So to understand the qualities of interpretation, not just by performing them, but also by observing each other. In between each of these meetings, we asked participants to work on their own. So they had to do extra research, to do more interviews from local people, etc., etc. And finally, the big moment was at the end when we had 2 joint meetings where all together we met, we traveled through all these towns and all these villages, and people actually performed the interpretive walks that they had prepared. The methodology we used, we started with experiential learning. So every meeting was included a lot of activities where people experienced something, and then we discussed on that, and we concluded to some theory. To the question, who holds the stick? By all means, they were the ones holding the stick. They were the ones deciding what is heritage for them, or which parts of their heritage are interested in presenting, in what way, what are the meanings and the values behind these elements. So it's really, it was really up to them. Whereas Valentina and Macrina, the other, she's not here, but she was also an assistant from the museum for us, and myself, we were there to facilitate the process and not to lead it. Having said that, we all know that we still need the experts, and we have them. We'll explain more later. But because of the restrictions of the time, we had to put a line and to acknowledge that there is such a thing as an optimal ignorance. So we could not afford to do too much research to collect all the data, etc. So we had to put a line at some point. I mentioned that we didn't go too deep into the theory of heritage interpretation, but we still aimed for the quality. So the lessons we learned for my part as a trainer, once again, experiential learning really made a difference. I really am a big follower of this training method. And once again, I felt that, yes, it works. We noticed, as you probably noticed, that in the towns we started big, but the percentage of the people who stayed till the end was really smaller than the percentage of the people in the villages. And of course, there are many ways that we can explain this, probably because they also had other offers, let's say, where they could work or they could spend their time. On the other hand, villages really used this opportunity to network among themselves, with the museum, with the participants of the other areas as well. And places that were hurt, like Davia, because of the mega fire that I mentioned before, really welcomed this new perspective that they had something new to offer, not just the natural heritage as they were used to up till that point, but also the human and cultural heritage. So in the question, did value-based heritage interpretation actually work in practice? I would reply, yes, it did. It was amazing to see how easy it was for these people to connect heritage with sustainability and human values without really going into the theory behind. It came so easy for them. Just a few examples to mention. There was this very interesting interpretive talk about traditional landscape and the possibility to put there that landscape some wind parks or some solar parks, and people were really discussing the advantages and disadvantages of that and what would that mean for their everyday life. I mentioned the national park that was burned, so there was a lot of discussion about sustainability, not for the natural heritage, but also for the cultural heritage of that area. So how does the cultural heritage is connected with sustainability issues? And then a very sensitive issue nowadays. As you saw, this region is a remote region, and it always had a long history of refugees. So it was there where a lot of people had to flee after wars throughout the years. And nowadays, once again, we have refugees arriving from the war-hit countries. It's one of the main entrances for these people in Europe. So all these stories, the narratives, how it was for us and how it is for them, really came on the surface through a discussion of the heritage. We revisited the past by considering the present and the future. So it was not just a discussion about the heritage, but a discussion about the heritage through the eyes, through the perspectives of the present, and also talks about resilience and sustainability for the future. How do we as active citizens relate to this heritage? And as we understand, I mentioned it before, co-creation started from the very beginning. So it was really themselves deciding what to interpret and in what way to interpret. And I mentioned that because co-creation is really in the core of value-based heritage interpretation. Okay, not everything was perfect. One thing that we would change based on the workshops is the smaller gap between the meetings. They were really spread throughout the months. At the beginning, Valentina and I thought that was a better idea because this would give them more time for the in-between work. However, if we had smaller gaps, then the spark would be kept alive in a more easy way. We would have avoided these professional overlaps for some of them. And the things that really helped us with this project was our previous experience in facilitation techniques, in interpretive training and planning, and of course, and also in co-creation activities, because the museum has a long history of such activities. And of course, for both Valentina and myself, Evros is a region that we know. We have lived there for a long time. Another important element that helped us was the previous work and the good reputation, the positive reputation that the museum has in this area. So it gave us a positive start to build on the trust that was already there. Mrs. Yanakido, who is the director of the museum, she was our expert in many ways. So she attended a lot of these workshops, a lot of these meetings. And because of the vast knowledge that she has on the history and on the culture of the area, she was able to offer this to whomever needed it. Of course, the museum's resources that Valentina already mentioned were available to anyone who wanted to do some extra research. And the Ministry of Culture, if it wasn't for their funds and also the moral support from the Department of Intangible Heritage, the project wouldn't have started at all. And also the local authorities, the support, the practical support that offered to us, it was generous and really, really helpful. Okay. So overall, for me, this was EVRYNOUS was the way to really open our minds, because we wanted to revisit Evros' past and the future and present, with an open mind for the future. And I believe through the response that we received from all the participants that in the end, indeed, we succeeded that.
So now we would like to, to continue to share a bit more about what lessons we learned also from the perspective of the museum. So as Valia said, the timing and the training and the duration of it could have been thought a bit more better to see, to take into consideration the distances between the locations, and maybe doing it a complete set in each region and not all of the regions at the same time, because it might have something to do with people who left, or it's a guess that we needed to reevaluate the timing and the duration of it. The second thing that we learned is that this was a call to action. So commitment and ownership for the program was a huge deal. So maybe some of the people who couldn't continue realized that this takes a lot of work. Valia said that they needed to do research as well. So they needed to actually put on the hours to find information and create the interpretation story. So to be there, you have to commit and you have to take ownership of your story and what you're going to do with it. So what was really inspiring, and it gave us hope that what we do matters, was that the realization that the need for a project like this was real. And for me, the biggest examples for that was the villages in Northern Evros. They embraced it immediately and stayed there throughout the duration, and they were on fire. The other teams as well, but I specifically say that for them because it was actually 3 or 4 villages for all the participants, and they had to travel to their location. So for them, it was even a longer process to come to the meeting, and they stayed there, and they really succeed till the end. So at the same time, new stories were revealed, new information that even the museum didn't have, and which that is always amazing, because now you can see different perspectives of local history or stories or even artifacts or landmarks that you had no idea about the background and the story. And that was also surprising and wonderful for us as well. And to give the opportunity to people to have an emotional connection with their roots, the history, their home, especially in the region of Evros, that is not always easy. This is a complicated region, so your relationship with your roots and your history and your home is not always easy. And through this experience, lots of them rediscovered not only the reason to be proud and want to showcase your region and your history, but for them, the connection that might have been lost. And it was a platform for them to be heard and to be seen. So one of the most important things as well at the same time is that there are possibilities for further development, which that lead us to sustainability. Some projects, they end at the end of the training, and that's it. You did your job, you gave them the knowledge, now it's up to them to how to use it. But sustainability and continuity, it's a lot of work, and you need more steps for you to be able to succeed in that part. And the museum had from the beginning the sense that this has to have continuity. We are not doing that just to offer you a new experience. We are doing this for you to be able to take it, make it your own, and create something new with the support, with the continuous support of the museum as well. So the museum as a mentor is a key factor in helping them creating and making a stronger network and stronger impact, not only for them, but for us as well. And this takes me to where we actually put them to work. 2 weeks ago, we had a huge conference at the museum in the city of Alexandroupolis with professors, ambassadors, geopolitical experts, ex-ministers, like a big academic group of people. So at the end of the conference, we told them that we arranged for them a field trip, a day trip to the region of Evros. So 2 of the stops was in the city of Didimotijo and in the city of Soufli. So instead of calling an expert or a guide tour to show them to the landmarks that they asked to see, we asked our interpreters to come and not give them the historical tour guide, but give them their own interpretation as to why these landmarks are important for them and their site and their local community. So it was very beautiful to see people who actually did this to a very specific group of people, and they took so much pride and joy in doing that. And it was such a beautiful moment to see, because this is quite a few months, it's after the summer from the end of the workshop. So that was a very moving moment to see them actually doing their what we worked so hard for them to create. And it was a huge success because the feedback from the group was that, yes, thank you, because you showed me something that I could not see if there was a professional historian telling me just the data and the history of the location. Now I have a perspective of a person who lives there. So I think it was a very emotional and proud moment for our interpreters, but also for us from the museum that we were there. We were like proud mamas, and it was like really, really nice. And that brings me to now what? Putting our new skills to the test. For us to have continuity and sustainability, we need to be able to answer why are we continuing to do this with the team? What is that we are specifically planning to do? How are we going to do it? When are we going to offer it? For whom is going to be? By whom? And where? So all these questions need to be answered by the team. So the museum is here to create the next steps. First of all, there is the legal aspect of it. They may create an association or join a social club in order to have the umbrella of an organization and being more organized. They need to have a very specific mission statement. What do we want to do? Why? And what's our goal? What's our aim? To create a visual identity. Is it a logo? Is it a name? Is it something that people will now recognize that this is the team of people, a group of people that can create a very unique experience? Engaging content. We are living in a digital era. You have to use the tools that you are provided to. So creating stories and using social media and promoting your work and your stories and your location, it's actually a very easy approach to make yourself and your team known. Network and collaborations, not only within the museum and within them, but also with other local authorities and other communities. and maybe in a national level as well, because there are lots of regions that are actually trying to revive this spark for locals to rediscover and find again the love for their culture and their heritage. So we need to create unique experiences, thematic tours, and interactive elements, and incorporate the community inside of them. It could be go and see the pottery workshop that is around the corner, or go and create, do a cooking class, creating a pie with Mrs. Eleni, who is, you know, the great auntie of pie in the region, for the people to have a multi-sensory experience of the region. As you can understand, these steps take time. They're not going to be done in a month. They're not going to be done, maybe not even in a year. That's why the continuity is very important for us also to commit as a museum to continue and to provide these opportunities, but also for the team to be truly engaged in commitment and take ownership to that. I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to share all this, and me and Valia will be open to any question or clarification. Just stopping the share and feel free to ask.
Valentina, there is already a question on the chat.
Amazing.
Asking how was the process of selecting the participants, if you can explain.
Can you please repeat the question? Is this the one?
Yes.
What did
how
you
did
see?
you select? How did you select the participants?
Okay. As Valia said, it was an open call. So we send the invitation from the museum's network and spread around the region, and first come, first served. It was an open call to everyone. We didn't put any stop or any specific clarification as to qualifications. Just the duration, and that it's going to take 6 meetings and it's going to be 3 hours or 4 hours. So you need to commit in the time, 4 hours, you need to commit to being a participant. And of course that it was free of charge, open to everyone to be able to participate.
And there is this other question from Viola. So good to see value-based heritage interpretation in action. What did you see as the main difference to previous approaches? So as I already explained, the main difference actually was first the co-creating from the very beginning, giving them the opportunity to discover what heritage is for them, what does it mean for them, to select which parts of their sites, which elements, which phenomena of their cultural or natural heritage would be the core of the stories they would develop, of the interpretive talks and of the interpretive walks. And then what came really naturally, this discussion between the heritage and the values behind. And I don't refer to the values, the expert's point of view. So this is very important. The Parthenon is very important because it was built then, etc. But no, I mean the human values like equality or respect for the minorities or things like that. How the sustainability element as well. It really very naturally came within the interpretation that they selected, because it was part of the stories that they had to share. So the reason why the heritage was important to them somehow was related to such human values, and it came to the surface. It was really amazing for us to see. Viola knows that we are working on this theory in Interpret Europe for a long time now, and it was so amazing for me to see that it's not just a theory, that it really comes to life if it finds the ground to grow.
And can I add, Vala, that again, take in consideration the region. Evros, once again, is not a very, it's not the same as other parts of Greece. So you have also at the same time a region that has economical problems, accessibility problems. People throughout the past decades used to leave and be immigrants to go and find better jobs because there are no opportunities there. So as you can understand, the region has, let's say, not very high-spirited, I don't want to say mood. I mean, people need to feel and be seen and to be heard and to be valued. And to be very, very honest, the system is all centered around Alexandroupolis, which is the capital, and not so many opportunities are given to the rest of the region. So once again, the importance of this project was the location, that we left from the center and we went upwards. And also, the workshop did not happen in the city of Alexandroupolis. We did not offer it for the city of Alexandroupolis. And people were not upset, okay, but people were like, why? And we had people to come from other cities to join to the villages because they found that it was interesting. How?
There is another question. How are you planning to continue this program with the local community to continue the success? So I also have to say one story on that. I mentioned that Zadia was the last one to join. Actually, it was really an effort from their part. They really asked for us to include them in the project, and we were happy to do it. And after the project ended, they asked for our help again to develop a new narrative about the natural heritage this time. So after understanding the value of heritage interpretation and how interpretive themes can help creating interesting momentum within an interpretive experience, they asked for our help again to create a narrative after the disaster. So what is the forest now, the forest of this national park after the fire? This was also a very interesting co-creation experience, because once again, we gave them the opportunity to find their stories and to share them within the new interpretations that they are building. And once again, we were there as facilitators, and they took the initiative to create that.
To answer to them how to continue, the goal now is to organize about 3 to 4 more meetings with all the groups, and to start organizing the plan I showed in the presentation. That now we need to understand what our product is, what do we have to offer, and how to create custom-made thematic tours, but always through their perspective and their design. So if you have a group visiting the area and they're interested in a gastronomical experience, they will say, okay, here we have this interpretation tour and walk around the city tasting traditional pies or sweets. Or we want to see about the architecture or the natural environment, or anything that they think that they can create paths and walkarounds. So we want to make them understand that it doesn't need to be a one-off experience, and it doesn't need to be just one location. They need to collaborate and create different stories, different narratives through their own region, and also interconnection, like between the regions. It would be very interesting to have an organized step-by-step in each location, and a group that has traveling to the region for days can actually visit all the locations and have this unique experience. But all of this needs lots of organizing and lots of planning, and for them to be able to commit even more hours and even more personal effort for this to be to take off, to be actually a standing service by their own. And our second goal, which is a bit more time consuming, is to create them, maybe not as a legal entity, but to make them be under a structure that they can actually, who knows, join this association and be part of this amazing team here, and actually share their own experience and how they grow and what they're learning and what they're doing. So this is our want, and this is what we're trying to do, and we seriously hope we can manage to complete it to the end.
Okay, so you did not have any funding from the government for this project. Did the museum provide funding, or was this a volunteer-only project?
No, there was funding. So as Vala said, the Ministry of Culture, the Department of Intouchable Heritage, we made the proposal, they accepted the proposal, and we had a budget to do the project. That without that would be not able to do that. Just the cost of moving around in the region alone was massive. So without the sponsorship of the Ministry of Culture, this project would not be able to be done. The museum,
but the participants were acting as volunteers. Just want to clarify this, because there are many cases with, especially with EU-funded projects, where participants also get some sort of financial compensation for just being there.
okay.
This was not the case, okay? So they offered their time. They were there because they wanted to be there. Okay. Not sure if there are
any other questions, but it would be interesting if someone wants to share even a similar experience or something that they do even in a remote region, because it is really fascinating to see what are the results when you work in remote regions. It is challenging, but also very satisfactory when it goes well. Rewarding.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Rewarding. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, thank you so much, Valentin and Velia. What a wonderful presentation. I don't think it was the last time, but maybe a couple webinars ago, we heard from the Stromness Museum, which is in a utterly remote location in Scotland off one of the islands. And they did a similar project, and you should go watch that recording, because it's very fascinating how, especially in remote locations, you really do have to bring the community together and get the community buy-in to make these projects successful. But I just want to thank you so much for your time today. I'm seeing some of the participants in the list, and I know some of you. It's fun to see new names. I want to call out Thorsten Ludwig. He was, I believe, Thorsten, you were the former Executive Director of Interpret Europe. So it's absolutely lovely to see you on this webinar today. And I just want to recap round it out by saying, again, thank you very much to our presenters. Keep up the good work. And as Chuck Lennox always says, remember that heritage interpretation is a seed, not a tree. And we've planted more seeds today. So I encourage you all to visit gahi.online to review the recording, or go to interpret-europe.net also to see the recordings and to join as a member if you're not already. Again, thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed these presentations, and we will see you all on the next Gahi webinar.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much. Thank you everyone for attending.
Ciao.